Hello there, welcome into the show. I'm Adrian Healy with Alejandro Moreno, Steve Nicol, Craig Burley on board. Paolo Bandini is here. Lots of Italian matters to get into tonight, gents. And we'll start, actually, in Serie A, where Juventus, as you might remember, were clinging to that slender 16-point lead at the top of Serie A. They were taking on Udinese, and a much-changed team for Massimiliano Allegri. Didn't make any difference at all. Different 11 minutes in. How about that young man, Moises Kean?
He does well with the finish and the dance, but the ball by Alexander is just perfect. It's delicious. It goes in between the legs of the defender, and the nice finish by Kean.
Kean, the 19-year-old, with his first ever Serie A goal. It was swiftly followed by his second. A little deflection, perhaps?
So it's not his second, then?
No, it's his goal.
I'll tell you what, we'll give him it, though. He bamboozled the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper expects it to go the other way, gets a little nick, and it's in the back of the net.
Ronaldo liked it, didn't he? And then Kean in the second half winning a penalty. And you know what? He's on a hat-trick. Do you think he was given the penalty?
Pulling there?
100%.
I mean, it's good determination, good strength, good...
Oh, they didn't let him take it.
What?
Perseverance.
Emre Can instead.
Well, got to get the job done first,
Yep.
I suppose. The ultimate professionalism.
No hat-trick for Kean, but there was to be a fourth. Blaise Matuidi wrapping up points for Juventus. Late reply for Udinese, but all very, very comfortable indeed. And it's just the 19 points now over...
It's over!
Over Napoli, with the two Milan clubs in third and fourth. Of course, the whole reason they were playing Friday night is the Champions League at tilt with Atletico on Tuesday. Paolo Bandini joining us now. First of all, your reflections on what you saw tonight. Much changed team for Allegri. Same story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the big story tonight is definitely Moise Kean. He's someone who we've been, I guess, all sitting and waiting to see him explode and become the player that we hope he can become. He made his debut a couple of years ago for Juventus and was at the time the first, well, and still is the first player born in the 2000s to appear in Serie A, or indeed, I believe, the top 5 European leagues. Then became the first player born in the 2000s to appear in the Champions League. And of course, everyone's very excited about that moment. And 2 years later, we still haven't seen a lot of him. He went on loan to Verona last season, had a moderately productive season. He scored 4 goals there, which doesn't sound like a lot, but actually made him their joint top scorer, because Verona were a mess last season. He was getting moved all over the attack. So he's obviously a real talent. I mean, you can see from the goals he scored tonight, so fast, so aggressive and confident in the way he attacks the ball. I really thought for that second goal, that was just a bullish move by a player who saw an opportunity and took it. Confident in front of goal as well, and yeah, a huge prospect. So I suppose of all the things that could have happened for Juventus tonight in this game, look, it's Udinese, who are near the bottom of the table, who are struggling, who are playing poorly. Of all the things that could have happened that might have given the club a lift, having a teenager who's exciting, who can get fans feeling good again, is probably about as good a scenario as they could have dreamed of, really, because there was nothing that you could do in this game that's going to completely transform what's the reality, which is that the real game is the one against Atletico in midweek.
Well, another thing that happened, Paolo, was they did score 4 for the first time this season. They had a lot of 2-0 and 3-0 leads. They are 3-1 in terms of the odds to advance to the quarterfinal at home to Atletico Madrid, who are 1-4 on. When you look at the overall odds to win the Champions League, well, Atletico are third favourite at the moment, and Juventus ranked twice as long at 16-1. Gents, what's your feeling coming ahead of Turin in Tuesday? It's not out of the question by any means, is it?
It's not out of the question, but it's going to have to be a heck of a night in Turin, a heck of a performance. And there was a host of players left out today. And, you know, they're going to have to defend better than they did in Madrid, because that was poor, particularly from set pieces. And they're going to have to break down one of the most organised teams of the last decade of European football, without a shadow of a doubt. And so I suppose a big night for Ronaldo is needed again. And ultimately that's why he's gone to this club, to take them over the line again in the Champions League.
Ali, what's your feeling?
Well, as I said back after the first leg, and I'll say that now again, if you gave me the choice of all those things that we just saw in the odds there, including Juventus, and you gave me a choice of what group of players would you want to defend a 2-0 lead away from home, it would be, without a doubt, without any question, Atletico Madrid. They are made for this. They loved it. They embrace it. They enjoy it. This is what they live for. This is what Diego Godin sleeps at night and wakes up and says, yes, I get to defend for 90 minutes. It's what they do best. And I just don't see how Juventus gets around that.
They do it very well indeed, Stevie. Can Juventus find a way past?
I can't see it.
No.
I don't see them. Listen, the one thing that Juventus haven't done well recently is keep a clean sheet. So if Atletico score, they got to score 4. I mean, I don't see them scoring 2, never mind 4. So I just don't see any way. Yes, so far we've had incredible upsets, but I just don't see a third one.
Paolo, of course, Ronaldo will be licking his chops, lives for these sort of occasions, doesn't they? These are two teams that have competed in 4 of the last 5 finals. What's your sense of the balance of power in this tie?
Well, you know what you say, he's licking his chops and he lives for these nights, and it's true when we look at his career. But so far at Juventus, he scored 1 Champions League goal, and I think that, frankly, he's due. Juventus need him, and it's not all his fault. There's been plenty else wrong with this team, and you could point a big finger at the defending in that first leg. But at the same time, you sign someone for 100 million, even if he's not getting perfect service, you want him to do something, right? You want him to show up and drag the team at moments, and he hasn't done that in Europe so far this season. So it's a big night for Ronaldo. I think it was very interesting, obviously, that he's been rested in this game against Udinese, which we haven't really seen so far this season at Juventus. The first time they tried to rest him away to Atalanta, he wound up having to come on and save the day because they were losing. So at least he's going to come in with fresh legs, but it's a huge night for him. You know, my sense personally is a bit the same as Stevie's. I'm not sold that this Juventus team, the way it's playing, can keep a clean sheet. I think, again, to look at tonight's game, even against Udinese, even in a game they're totally in control of, giving away a cheap goal at the end. And yeah, that's the big risk for me, because if they concede 1, it's going to be a huge hill to climb.
Paolo, a huge night for Ronaldo. Is it also a massive night for Max Allegri? Reports of a rift between him and the Juventus president?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting night to see how it pans out afterwards. There's certainly tension there at the moment, and Allegri sort of challenging the board recently and saying, look, you know, if you don't want me here, I can go. And his mentor as well going out and giving having a conversation in the press where he suggested that Allegri's going to leave at the end of the season, whatever happens. I don't think that Juventus, the way they operate, the way the club is set up, that we're likely to witness a situation like we did with Roma, where if Juventus lose, Allegri gets sacked the next day and that's it. I think it's more likely to be resolved one way or another at the end of the season. But there's no question for Allegri that if they don't win this tie, if they don't turn this around, this season has been a failure. It was said at the beginning of the season quite openly by Juventus directors, by players, by Allegri himself. Look, we're going for the Champions League. And again, when you sign Cristiano Ronaldo, you have to be setting your bar higher. And so if they go out, this season has been a failure. That doesn't categorically 100% mean he's gone. I think there's still a possibility that there's a conversation that happens that changes things, but I would certainly weight it heavily towards Allegri going at the end of the season if they lose this game. But it's also possible that he'll go at the end of the season even if they win this game. So I think that's slightly the way the wind's blowing either way, if I'm being absolutely honest.
OK, final words on this tussle and Turin for now, and it's the ones you always enjoy. Prediction. Who's going through, Paolo? Can Juventus do it?
Exactly as the guys were saying in the studio, they can do it. I just don't think they will. I think Atletico are going to go through.
Let's see if they all concur here. Any takers for Juventus?
No, thank you.
Well, what did I say 2 weeks ago? Can't remember. No, it's too tough, I don't think.
Not happening?
Well, as a sidebar, by the way, speaking of the other managers, Diego Simeone doesn't get suspended after you're grabbing his private parts and what have you. That doesn't play a part into what happens on the field, but the emotion of Diego Simeone also carries his team out on the field. So I think it's important that he's on the sideline. Anyways, Atletico Madrid goes through.
I think that's a clean sweep, isn't it? I'm not going to go against the grain. Not at all. Paolo will join Gab and Nina for the Serie A Awesome podcast. A new edition just dropped. It's available on ESPN FC, also on iTunes. Now, the latest odds in terms of who is going to finish in the top 4. Manchester United have edged their way in. They're ahead of Arsenal. The bookies who still fancy Chelsea, actually, to be the favourites. They have.
Well, I would say the favourites are the top two.
A game in hand. Well, yeah, I guess. I was somewhat discounting the top two from
Why
1 to 10,000. I don't fancy those odds at all. But of course, it is Arsenal and Manchester United at the Emirates. The Sunday lunchtime kickoff in the Premier League. Arsenal slight favourites according to the odds makers to win at home. Manchester United 2-1. Draw 13-5. A fixture that for so long was the best in English football, Craig, and there's a lot at stake in this one.
With the Wenger-Ferguson years for sure, but you know, United had that great performance there not too long ago in the FA Cup, which was a great 3-1 win. And hell, I'm just not betting against Man United at the moment.
No.
Injuries or not, because we're expecting them to have some of those players that were out in Paris back. Pogba will be back from the suspension he served in that game. And whilst Arsenal were decent at Tottenham last week and probably should have won, this United side are on just one heck of a roll. So many informed players, playing with confidence. Whatever the manager says, they're taking in. And they're 9 consecutive wins, I think, on the road. It was quite incredible.
18th game for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They're going for their 15th win.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad, is it?
I think this has got a draw written all over
Really?
it. I'll be absolutely shocked if there's not some sort of hangover left over from Manchester United. You know, they're getting a couple of players back, but they're going to be dog tired. I mean, you could say the same for Arsenal, but they're at home. I think this has got a draw written all over it.
They're both coming off those 3-1 results on French soil. Very different 3-1 results, Ali.
And that's a problem that I see with Arsenal, is that they can look as good as they did against Spurs, and then they can do what they did against Rennes. And regardless of whether they were playing with 10 men or not, it just feels like this is a team that can go in any different direction on a given day. So for me, I am with Craig wholeheartedly. Why go against Manchester United? If we're going to try to find reasons as to why go against Manchester United nowadays, we're fools. We're fools. And I'm not a fool.
Well, no, you're not. You've never been accused of that.
That's
I don't know
matter
if
of
you have been
opinion.
accused of that. Paolo, you've got the inside track on the sort of dynamics with Arsenal. I know you're a regular viewer of them. I guess Arsenal fans would suggest their home record is one reason to be hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. They've won, I think it's 8 in a row at home. Obviously, the counter to that is that Manchester United have won 9 in a row away from home. So certainly two teams that, in this position, come in strong form. I think it's a big loss for Arsenal not having Lucas Torreira in central midfield. He's obviously suspended, whereas Manchester United have the opposite situation, Paul Pogba coming back from suspension. So I think he'll be missed in midfield. And clearly, at some point in the last week, you think what Arsenal really need to do is just stop having central defenders make individual calamitous errors that cost them games, as happened against Tottenham and then again against Rennes in the Europa League. But I think it's obviously a hugely important game, but I think it's one that Arsenal can win, but they have to really pick their heads up after that midweek defeat.
But it seems that, Unai Emery doesn't always feel that way himself about Torreira. Because he got sent off last week, but he came off the bench for Guendouzi. So I don't think the manager himself is quite convinced that he's the key player that they need, as good a player as he is. The other thing I would say about Emery, he's not been shy to throw a few curveballs this year in terms of the formations he puts out. So that could be sort of one thing to watch out for. He's skirted with certain back fours and back threes, and he's put Aaron Ramsey in the hole sometimes, and so he's, Ozil on the bench, Ozil playing, Aubameyang dropped really against Spurs, was a bit of a shock. So he could play both those players. He could play Lacazette and Aubameyang, or he could play Aubameyang on the left. So he's always had a few options that he throws out there. He's not frightened to try something if he thinks it's going to throw the opposition off the scent.
No chance Ozil is playing, by the way.
No chance?
No chance.
Why would he play away from home in a Champions League, in a Europa League game?
I have no idea, but he played against Rennes. They lost 3-1, and there's no chance he's playing.
Who needs this more, by the way? Because the Manchester United run-in is definitely tougher than Arsenal's. This is Arsenal's last game against a top six
I think
game.
Arsenal needs it more.
They do?
Listen, if Manchester United do not win this game, I don't think anybody's going to be pointing any fingers or asking any questions because of what happened or what's been happening under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, they're going to lose another game sometime, that's for sure. I think Arsenal, if they don't win this game, that is a huge dent in any hope they have of getting to the top 4. They're sitting in a place where I didn't think they were capable of right now. But if they get beat in this game, I think they can forget all about top 4.
It is the 200th league meeting between Manchester United and Arsenal. It will wrap up the Premier League weekend fixtures, which start with a little bit of a derby. Crystal Palace and Brighton will be the early game.
Yeah, only about 100 miles
on
between
Saturday. Well, they count it as a derby.
What?
For some reason, it's a vicious rivalry.
No, they do, yeah, seriously. I know.
Liverpool at home to Burnley will be the early Sunday game, and that'll be followed by Chelsea and Wolves. Well, it's been quite the few days. Well, it's been quite the few days in Rome, hasn't it? Di Francesco out the door, and now sporting director Monchi has gone as well. This some of the notable player arrivals and departures in his slightly less than 2 years.
A lot of numbers.
As Roma sporting director. Some big money he got for departing players, but perhaps some questions asked about the stable of players he has brought in his time. Perhaps not quite the same level of success as he enjoyed with Sevilla. So, Paolo, let's bring you on this. What's behind his departure?
A whole heap of things, one of which might well be the interest he's reportedly got from Arsenal, and I think that's definitely a real conversations happening there, whether or not it's quite done yet. The club hasn't played well. This season has been a colossal disappointment after going to the Champions League semi-final last year. Roma are 5th in Serie A and coming off an absolute hammering in the derby against Lazio. They're out of the Champions League in a tie they really should have been able to get through against Porto. Things have not gone well, and the manager has carried the can for that to a certain extent, but I think that a lot of people were, even though Monchi took the decision to step away before he was pushed, a lot of people were also looking and pointing fingers in his direction. He's been sort of openly jeered by the fans at times. I think a lot of people were unhappy with how the last summer's transfer activity was handled in a bunch of different ways. I mean, of course, the decision to let two real sort of fan favourites, Kevin Strootman and Raja Nainggolan, both go in the same summer. Whatever you think of their merits as players, I think you can make a compelling case that both of them, it was time to move on. To let them both go when they're such sort of popular and integral figures with the fans in the changing room in the same summer was very disruptive, especially with Alisson also going. And then the money that has come in hasn't necessarily been as well invested as it could have been. Now, I think we have to put a big caveat on that, which is to say that Roma signed a lot of young, interesting players. Justin Kluivert is a great example of someone who very possibly is going to be a huge player for Roma in the future, but right now he's still a teenager, so we don't know. We haven't seen that much of him. Whereas there are a couple of players they spent not Alisson money, but significant money on. Steven Nzonzi and Javier Pastore. The first has been okay, but doesn't really fit. There was a real sort of sense of signing a player there who is far too similar to someone you've already got in Daniele De Rossi. And then Pastore has been a disaster, frankly. He's been barely in the team lately, and when he is in the team, he doesn't make sense because he's a guy who plays best as a number 10 in the hole behind the attack, and he's playing for a manager who likes to play a 4-3-3. So some definite missteps from Monchi along the way, and that's part of this picture for sure.
What do we think, guys? And what do we think about Claudio Ranieri coming in?
Careful. There's some Roma fans. Careful now.
Tried very
Well, I
careful.
thought Nzonzi was supposed to replace De Rossi because, you know, De Rossi's in he's past his mid-30s. But as Paolo said, it hasn't quite worked out for a player who's been excellent as a defensive shield to a back four, but it's just not quite working out for him at the moment.
Ranieri, can he get him in the top 4? Stevie?
No. Listen, you need players. Sporting directors, coaches, managers. You need players to win games. They don't have good enough ones.
Ranieri's coming from a club
Yes,
that
he's
is now
coming
going to
from
be
a-
relegated. It doesn't quite fit in, I don't think.
It is quite the leap, isn't it? The Serie A Awesome podcast. Do not miss it. Paolo, Gab, and Mina. Week 2 of MLS headlined by the... Now, reports surfacing suggesting Spurs could be very close to opening up the new White Hart Lane. Apparently some dates set up for some test games, an under-18 Premier League game against Southampton on March the 24th, I should say, and then a Legends game on March the 30th, talking about Premier League and perhaps Champions League games to swiftly follow that. Some rumours that it may be called Nike or Nike Stadium as well. It is Friday. That means it's time for Best of the Week.
All right. Who would win a 40-yard dash?
I'm backing myself here.
You can't run. Stevie can't run. Maris might win by a nose.
Well, Maros is already over the finish line before he starts.
If I type into Google West Ham's greatest ever goalkeepers, right? Hang on. Shaka Hislop, number 2 in best remembered goalkeepers. In his first season as a Hammer, he won Hammer of the Year after a brilliant season, but it wasn't to last. Oh.
What we saw out there today, that's not a team. It's just a bunch of guys running around. They're disconnected, they're disorganized. This was a comprehensive, thorough backside whooping.
I'm not a big chicken wing eater. That's an untruth, Mariner.
What's your technique?
Technique?
You just push it in and drain it? What's it?
No. I just hold them and eat them. I'm not sure what else to tell you,
Hold
Paul.
on.
Take care. Love you guys. See you, Gabriele. Go have some lasagna now. Yeah, freshly made.
I think there's an unwritten rule that you're allowed to go in and smash a goalkeeper.
That's the thing.
What is the difference doing this on a goalkeeper and doing this on an outfield player? Apart from the fact they're usually big and daft. But that's no argument to say you're allowed to do it.
Quickly, Sid, we've got like 20 seconds. Mourinho, yes or no? Is it going to happen?
I wouldn't be at all surprised.
Oh, there we go. That's very short for you, Sid Lowe.
See, Julian was brave because he could have thrown a sick
He could,
yeah.
he could.
Julian,
He tried.
said,
Well done,
Right.
Jules.
I was that close of finding anything I could find, like perfume, anything that would like knock me out strong.
Ah, cufflinks. Oh,
How did you get those on? There's no way. Somebody's put them on for you. You couldn't get those big fat hands through them.
So were you.
The same weekly physical battle that made Rennes beat Arsenal tonight. It's exactly the same, you know. So
Well done.
Paul didn't like that one.
And what's the rhetoric in your head? What's going on in your head when you're doing that?
What's going on Craig's head? What's going on Craig's head anytime?
Please make Stevie talk in his American Southern accent. It's absolutely brilliant.
Well, see, I can't, when you chuck it
Well,
on,
tell
I
us-
can't do it when you chuck it on me. All I'll say is no.
Are you here tomorrow?
A-E-I-O-U. There you go.
I wonder how those cufflinks are going to be holding up. Stevie,
I don't know about chicken wings, but I've seen Shaka eat some barbecue ribs, Korean barbecue ribs. Man, those big hands just dip in there, and he just goes for it.
technique, he just eats them. Just eats them.
Different level.
He can trough the lad.
Don't know if you'd be...
He's a goalie, isn't
He
he?
can put it away.
Don't know if you'd be watching Liverpool in the company of some chicken wings, Steve, this weekend. Burnley. Any fears at all? I mean, they haven't
Yes,
been,
absolutely.
Right.
Not quite. You're not quite sure what the front three are going to give you right now. So yes, listen, Burnley are ultimate party poopers, to be honest. They love doing that. So yes, I'm not as confident as I was before Christmas. I'll
not
tell you
counting
that.
your chickens at all. huh?
Absolutely, chicken wings. Not counting the chicken wings.
But they're going to get back on track, aren't they? Isn't this an ideal game for them to get back on track, to open up the tap again?
I don't know that Burnley is ideal to
You don't
get
think
back
so?
on track. I think they can be stubborn, they can be difficult to play against, and it can be difficult and physical and all that stuff, but it's about time that Liverpool shows the team that they had been up until, I guess, the last month or so, that things just kind of went off the rails. I expect Liverpool to win. Maybe.
Yeah. They turned it on against Watford when we were asking similar questions.
And then they turned it off.
And then turned it back off against Everton.
Right.
They have to win because we're, presuming that Man City will beat Watford at home.
Yeah.
That takes the points to what?
Four. If they went 4 points ahead this weekend,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that.
And they'll have the psychological advantage of playing first again, City.
Correct.
So
it's a team selection again from Klopp and his substitutions, which, let's be honest, were not great last week.
Are we trying to get him concerned, or?
he's fiddling with his cufflinks. Fiddling. See you next time. So away we go, guys. How we feeling? Long week.
Yeah. It's good to see it.
Late night last night.
Gun shy.
I'm gun shy.
Yeah.
Not a good week.
It threw up a few surprises this week.
Yeah. Not a good week for the citizens of Paris or Madrid.
Not as big a surprise as my boiler leaking this morning. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The technician, though, is having a great weekend.
Your technician did very well out of it, I'm sure.
Oh, well, yeah, especially when he comes out and he starts pulling other parts of the boiler apart and then tells you that you need a full new boiler.
Yeah.
You know the worst thing is?
Yep.
Situations like that, you never know whether they're taking the mickey out you or not. I mean, they walk in and they look at it and they go,
How did it go?
Yeah. It's like,
I don't like the look of that.
Like, I got here just in time.
Yeah, I know, by the way. It's going to snow on some days.
Yeah. Don't want your boiler to go out.
It's going to get cold. You don't want your family to be cold.
Yeah. And funny, I've got one in the back of the van just like this.
Yes. But for you, especially, I can put it in today.
Yeah, I can put it in today.
Paolo Bandini is with us. He doesn't have to worry about snow on Sunday. But Paolo, many of the residents of the city of Rome are perhaps wondering, how does Claudio Ranieri keep on getting such great jobs? This is Dan with his first question.
I don't know if the citizens of Rome are necessarily thinking that quite so much. I mean, he's got a lot of goodwill stored up for him, certainly amongst Roma supporters going back. I was thinking this before, so I don't know if you guys know this, but obviously Claudio grew up in Rome, and his family had a butcher shop, and back in the day he used to even run the meat around town on the back of his push bike. And the last time he took the Roma job, which was about a decade ago, there was sort of stories about people who remembered him doing this. And of course, Claudio's not a young man anymore, and you wonder how many of those people are still around who remember him doing this. But a lot of people will remember, again, that stint a decade ago. He came in after Luciano Spalletti threw a tantrum and walked out two games into a season, both of which Roma had lost. And Claudio took them all the way to second and ran into really close for the title that year, and actually did a really good job at the time. Didn't go so well from the next season, and he ended up leaving. But he has come into a situation before at Roma where things weren't quite right and fixed it. So he's got a history of doing things right there, and I guess they're hoping he'll do it again.
He's no boiler technician, I can tell you that.
No, but at least we know that he's going to deliver some meat, apparently. That's what we're told.
Yeah, that'd help you out.
If it doesn't work out in Rome, just give Claudio a call.
Well, good to know that's a criteria.
Yes.
Peddling meat around.
It is.
A very busy Rome traffic. Well, it beats the Rome traffic, as you know.
Yeah.
Paolo, it's very busy there in the centre.
Stevie, Mikhail wants to know whether you think Jurgen Klopp will start either Shaqiri or Keita for some creativity in the Liverpool midfield. They play Burnley this weekend.
I don't think he'll play Keita for creativity. I mean, I think that's what actually he was brought in for, hopefully to get some goals from the middle of the park. But he just hasn't produced. Hasn't produced with goals, hasn't produced with assists. So I don't see any reason why you would start him. And Shaqiri, for some reason, I think he's just forgot his name. Because
it is odd, isn't it?
For me, over the last 3 or 4 games, it's been crying out for Shaqiri. And he just seems to have pushed him aside. Brought on Sturridge, started Origi. I mean, what's Shaqiri done to upset Klopp? So there's no signs at all that any of those two will start at the weekend.
And the big problem for Liverpool is, and I was saying to Stevie, and I mentioned it weeks ago, was that the way the fixtures have been thrown up at the moment, and it happened last week, and it's happening again. Oh, did it happen last week? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it did, yeah. Man City are playing before.
Yeah.
So City playing the Saturday again, they're already at the top. You would presume, presumptuous that they're going to beat Watford at home. You know, they got hammered by Liverpool. That was a surprise, the scoreline, because they've been strong. But you presume, if you presume they win, then you've got that 24 hours or whatever it is to think about that game again the next day, even though it's Burnley at home, you expect to win. And that just piles the pressure on again. Because you imagine if City stretch that out even more, it's probably not going to be doable for Liverpool.
No. You think Jurgen Klopp does resist the urge to tinker with things? To this extent, I mean, Shaqiri or Keita.
Well, if the question is Keita for creativity, no. And Shaqiri, I don't know where he's been, so no.
No, he is in the doghouse, quite clearly. Paolo, go back out to you. Hamuda, is there any chance, looking into the near future for Juventus, any chance that Pep Guardiola leaves Manchester City for Juventus? Lots of talk about who might follow Max Allegri in the summer if he departs.
I mean, is there any chance? Sure, but is there a good chance? Not that I'm aware of. I've heard nothing at all to give this story legs, I'm afraid. So, you know, look, football managers move around, and maybe at some point Pep, having conquered Spain and having won the title in Germany and won it in England, he might decide, hey, let's go to Italy. But it's not in the pipeline anytime soon, I don't think.
Zidane seems to be the name, guys, that's being mentioned the most.
It's as good a chance as Paolo getting a haircut anytime soon. that's what.
Yeah, that would seem rational.
Zidane wants
Zidane
after this, doesn't it?
After his rest, to go back to the club where he was successful.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I'm sure the fans would be loving that.
I still think it's tough on Allegri. I mean, you know, what's he done? All he's done is win doubles and get to Champions League finals. That's all he's done.
If I were Allegri, I would say, all right, this is not good enough for you guys. See you guys later. Take care, and let's go play golf, right, Steve?
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah. But they won't, will they?
No. Well,
they can't help themselves.
No,
that's what we would do.
Yeah.
But they won't. They can't. But no, the thing is, for Allegri, you know, it might be him that goes rather than the club pushes him. But, you know, I don't know. There's clearly not a lack of success there.
But he's going to land on his feet wherever you go.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's some big jobs out there that are going to be hovering around, and he's going to be one of the top names for most of them.
Stevie, you should take this one first, being the expert on touchline bans. Ashish wants to know, was Mauricio Pochettino rightly punished? What's the impact of a touchline ban on a game? With Pochettino not there, can Spurs do what they need to do against Southampton?
Absolutely, 100%. When the guy in charge is not on the sideline, it affects the team. There's no question. So...
I remember the Revs going to Seattle with you and Paul way up in the stands somewhere, and they still managed to win somehow.
Well, we did, but I think
he was just a genius.
I think the fact
you were shouting.
I don't think it was the fact that I was not in the bench. I think the fact that Paul got sent off sort of charged the boys up, to be honest, because they can see what was going on was wrong. So from that point of view, it maybe helped that Paul gets sent off, but certainly, listen. And it's not just games, you know. See, training is probably worse. Because if the head guy's not there, people will take the day off.
Right.
Some will, guaranteed. So it makes a huge difference when the head man's not there.
So why... I haven't read into this, but Tottenham were furious because he apologised publicly, which was fine, but it wasn't going to detract from him getting a ban. But they were furious that Klopp never got a ban.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that.
And I think, you know, for berating the referees and running on the field and doing... And I think that was it. I don't know if there was any clarification as to what the difference was, particularly at a key point of the season. Anybody help me here?
No. Listen, see when these committees get together, you have no idea the kind of nonsense they can come up with.
Why
So-
one? Yeah.
You were looking for Adrian to answer the question for
Somebody.
I'd read that too, but I never saw any clarity on the whole
There was a
issue.
lot of blank staring going on over here.
Well, do you know what it was?
They don't give clarity. That's
What was the
problem.
difference between the Pochettino suspension and Klopp not receiving one? Do you know anything about that?
No. No, I don't have a sideline on that. No.
I'm off.
Nice one,
Hey, we still got questions.
I can't.
Don't
Well,
go
the thing
yet.
is, to be fair,
All right, fine, go ahead.
Paolo can't answer the question because they don't tell you. That's part of the problem. They can get away with and say or not say whatever they fancy. And there's
last
nobody,
time I'm asking
and there's
you a
nobody to
lot of questions.
question them. You can't pull them up and say, well, hold on a second, and get a rational response. You just get a, no. That's it. And that's,
I'm
that's
sticking
all it's
to
happening.
peddling sausages round the city centre. Somewhere.
We've had meat
Nothing wrong with
deliveries.
that, didn't
We've had
we,
meat
Roger?
deliveries.
Anyhow.
We've had boiler technicians, and now some peddling of sausages. Staying with Spurs, Matt wants to know, with rumours about Spurs' stadium being named after an athletic company with 4 letters beginning with an N. Yeah. How do you guys pronounce that athletic company with 4 letters?
Well, we can't say it if you can't say it.
Well, I didn't want to say it because then that's answering.
Well, we're not getting in trouble just because you. So do you.
Paolo, how do you say that? How do you say that particular athletic company beginning with an N?
I can't think what athletic company you possibly mean that has 4 letters and starts with an N.
Well, how do you say Spike?
Well, I say Nike. I'd say Nike, but some people say.
Would you say Spiky?
No, I wouldn't say Spiky. But...
I grew up saying Nike.
You did?
And then I came to this country, and apparently it's Nike. And when I say Nike, people looked at me very weird.
I say Nike.
Yeah, there's a big...
Yeah.
Nike.
So there's a big continental divide in how it's pronounced.
It could be a... Could be a war over this.
I would say Nike as well. I would say Nike.
Yeah.
So potentially you could get lost on your way to the stadium by asking people the wrong name of the stadium.
Right.
Excuse me, can you tell me where Nike Stadium is? I've never heard of that, sir. Sorry.
But it's Nike for you, Paolo. Is that right?
I would say Nike. Yeah, I feel like in England everyone says Nike. I think that's the way it's said over here, and in Italy it's pretty much the same, but with a bit more Nike.
Is this part of your full integration process into American culture that you say Nike?
Maybe it's the
Hey, listen, when in Rome,
it's the defining moment.
Well, he won't go to a bar in the American tradition and sit and talk to people. So he won't do all the other stuff. So he's got to integrate himself some way with his
Well,
rhetoric.
it takes time, isn't it? It's a process. You can't cover everything in one
Does
go.
anybody know why Klopp never got suspended? What about a little thing? Any more questions?
Yes.
It's not
Apparently.
difficult.
One.
No, you don't stumble. You just go.
You keep pointing that pen
Well,
at me.
one, because again, it's in your direction. Do Steve and Craigie ride share to the studio, or share a lift? Is perhaps what we might say. But
No, we don't actually stay in the same house.
Any ride sharing going on?
We have actually wheeled Stevie to the studio before when he was struggling with the gout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't stay in the same town.
No. So Radu, nice try, but no doings there.
No.
We do on an Uber home from a night out,
Yes.
right? Which you have a
whole
camera as an event
yeah.
in itself, for obvious reasons.
It's more of a necessity, that Uber ride, more so than anything.
Often seen legs hanging out the window of the car.
Nice. All right. Better let Paolo go. Better let you go as well, because you've been with us for a while. ESPN FC tomorrow. You back, Stevie? I think you are, yeah?
No.
You back, Ali?
Yes, I am.
Break?
I'm in.
Yep. Saturday's action wrapped up on ESPN+.